So let's make Belle's peasant dress, or at least a style of Belle's peasant dress inspired by the lovely Nikita Cosplay and utilizing her book that I purchased, which is somewhere near me. I will insert footage because I don't quite know where it is at the moment. However, let's do this. One of the first things that I worked on was the corset. So I was making this cosplay specifically to wear to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween at Disney World, and I wanted it to be comfortable. I wanted it to be wearable on roller coasters, and I didn't want to be too terribly hot, even though I wound up being extraordinarily hot. I didn't really want to spend that much money on it. I have 3 much larger builds where I'm siphoning all of my money into. So this I wanted to be relatively cheap. If you don't know, this was part of my let's make 4 corsets at the same time thing I was trying to pull off. And it was working up until I ran out of supplies for most of them. So then I just focused on Belle and getting that done, because I only had like 3 weeks until the event I was going to. So I just focused on Belle after mostly getting through the rest of the corsets. I just so happened to have this lovely material left over, so I decided to go ahead and use that. It is an upholstery fabric, so it's very sturdy. It's very tightly woven, and it doesn't have any stretch to it, which is what you want when you're choosing corset fabric. You can do the outside of a corset in a fashion fabric, but I really love to have mine extra stiff. So my outer fabric is typically an upholstery fabric of some kind. My inner facing, my inner lining is canvas, and then my lining is usually whatever cheap cotton I have lying around. So I started with this upholstery fabric. I did use Nikita Cosplay's corset design because I really wanted to get this front V-neck thingy going, and then sleeves. I don't do sleeves typically in my corset, so I used hers. I did have to alter it a bit because the sleeve holes were too small, or not really too small, they're just like weirdly placed, they went up too high, but I did go ahead and make some alterations to it, but for the most part it's hers. So let me tell you about how I preserve my purchased patterns. So if you do any sewing and you've purchased any pattern ever, you'll know that 9 times out of 10 it comes on this tissue paper, which is really annoying because it falls apart after 1 or 2 uses. Or in this case, for Nikita Cosplay, it came with this really nice thick paper. Given the fact that my size tends to fluctuate these days quite often, both up and down, I decided that I didn't want to cut the pattern. The book itself was rather expensive. It was shipped from France, and I think in total it was $70+. So I decided that because I didn't, first of all, it's in, I think, European sizes, and every time I measure myself and try to translate it over to European sizes, it's always wrong. I don't know why. It's probably my fault, but anyway, so I just decided to go ahead and transfer it over. So the way that I do that is probably a little different than what some other people do. I know some people who just take paper or additional tissue paper and transfer it over, but I like to take muslin or some form of cotton that I have, because I'm telling you, I have a ton of it. There's this amazing place in St. Louis called the City Sewing Room. I don't live there anymore, and I'm very sad about that. This is one of the things that I miss. But the City Sewing Room, people donate their unused fabric to this community center, and you can go and buy fabric by the pound, and it's $1 a pound. And I kid you not, I bought a giant roll of just, I think it might have been curtain fabric. It was sheer, like kind of sheer, but very cottony. I don't know. It was very strange, but it was 115-inch wide, and I got, I think, 65 yards of this fabric for $8, and I just made it through the last of that bolt. So when I say I use cotton for a lot of things, that is why. But anyway, muslin works really well, and it's not very expensive. But I like to place the muslin on top of my pattern, and I can see the pattern through it. And in the case of Nikita Cosplays design, it is like a rainbow of sizes. So for this one, I think it chose the dark green one. No idea what number that translates to. And I just trace it with an ink pen onto the fabric, and then I cut that out, and that can be reused over and over and over and over again. Pick the medium you want, but for me, it's fabric. I should probably explain fabric a little bit. So if you don't know how to make a corset, there are specific parameters you need. I swear corsets are super, super easy to make. It's just puzzle pieces that fit together, very easy. But the fabric choices are important. If you want the outside to be satin or something else, like something that's not stiff, you can totally do that. And that layer, that visible layer, is what I call the fashion layer. You can do that. You just need to choose higher quality fabrics. Some of the cheaper ones can tend to buckle and bunch up and not look so great. And then your middle layer, the interlining, is a simple duck cotton, which is why I use 10-pound duck cotton. It needs to be stiff, and it needs to not stretch. So tightly woven fabric of some kind. Duck cotton is really cheap and very stiff and durable. I really like it. You can also use denim or tightly woven cotton twill. Coutil if you want to go the bougie route, or the historical route, I should say. And then the lining can be whatever you want. I always use a really cheap cotton that I have lying around for my lining. I like cotton because it's comfortable, it's breathable, and it's free because I already have it. And that was my thing. I did not want to spend a lot of money on this costume. So I cut the pattern out of all three fabrics, and in this instance I decided to baste the canvas to the fashion fabric and then have the boning channels attached to the lining. It's not my favorite way to do it. I don't really like my boning channels on my lining. I usually attach those to the interfacing, but I decided I wanted a super stiff look to the bodice without having the boning channel stitching showing, so that's what I did. The boning channels I just made out of twill tape, like 1-inch cotton twill tape. Super cheap. You can get it on a big roll from Amazon, and it works really, really well as to make boning channels. I hear that's like the lazy way to do it. You can actually fold fabric and make cute little channels or whatever, but why make extra work for myself is how I feel about that. So I basted the canvas to the fashion fabric and stitched all those panels together, and then I stitched the lining together, stitched the boning channels in, and then I cut my own boning, which I highly recommend. It's cheaper that way, and then you can get the appropriate sized boning. It's usually sold in increments of a 1/2 inch, and it's kind of hard to get those to fit in each corset because each corset is different. So I just started cutting my own. I do have a video on that, which I'll throw up in the cards, and I'll also put down in the description. It's very, very easy to cut boning. It takes no time at all, especially if you get a nifty little capping tool tip for the Dritz, what's it called? The Dritz snap pliers and aluminum tips. Oh, it makes life so much easier. Anyway, and then I don't bag line my corsets, which bag lining is where you put your right sides together, stitch all the way around except for a little bit, and then you turn it inside out and then hand stitch close that little gap. I don't do that for my corsets. I edge all of my corsets, which means that I actually put wrong sides together so that the lining is facing the right way and the fashion fabric is facing the right way. And then I stitch all the way around. So that encases all of my boning, and that stitches everything together. And then I take bias tape. Bias tape is just some cotton that's been cut on the bias. It comes in a wide variety of colors. And I get double fold, which means it gets folded in like this, and then gets folded in again. I like that because then there's no raw edges, and I just run that around my entire corset. The bottom, the top, the sleeve holes, that covers all of my raw edges, and boom, everything is done but the grommets. Grommets, super easy as well. I use a grommet hole punch. I really recommend getting this and not using an awl. Using an awl through a corset is a nightmare, and it's so hard to get the hole the size that I want, which I use 1/4 inch grommets. So I just get the 1/4 inch hole and I hammer it where I want it, and then I hammer the grommet together. I do have a grommet press. I just haven't figured out how to use it appropriately yet. But other than that, super easy, a little manual, but then my corset was done and I love it. I need to find something else to wear with, because that fabric is just so gorgeous to me. So that was my corset. So then I made the skirt, which was extremely easy as well. It's just a circle skirt. I made it out of denim, which was the recommended fabric that Nikita Cosplay mentioned in her book. It's just a dark blue denim, and then the bottom ruffle is cotton. And the lace is a crochet lace that I found on Amazon. I thought that lace was very, like country, I guess, or something. I don't know. I loved how it's still lace, so it really added to the design, but it's also not like fancy lace, It looks like Belle could have made it. I would believe that she had made it. If you don't know what a circle skirt is, it's just a big piece of fabric where you cut the bottom of your skirt out, and then you cut the hole out for your waist, and boom, that's a circle skirt. It's usually just one single piece of fabric. If you need a fuller skirt or your fabric isn't wide enough to do that, sometimes it's 3 panels. I've seen 2 panels. So go to moonfabrics.com. They have a circle skirt calculator, which I will throw the link down in the description. You don't have to do anything. There's this super complicated formula you can do that involves the pi symbol, and I've been out of school long enough that I don't even want to do that anymore. You go to this website, you give it you can choose inches or centimeters. You give it the size of circle skirt you want. So I think I did a full circle skirt. You give it your waist measurement, and you choose the length, which mine I think classifies as midi, and it gives you your waist radius, how much fabric you will need to cut this with, and then the width of fabric that you need to cut it with. And on top of it, it shows you exactly how to fold your fabric and how to cut your fabric so that you can get the perfect circle skirt. So I'm not going to go into any detail. I'm going to direct you to Mood. They have everything you need, and it is quite awesome. So I just ruffled up the fabric. I do have a little video on how to ruffle that I'll throw up in the cards as well, so you can go check that out. It's a short, so it's like 15 seconds long, but it shows you how to ruffle on your machine. And then I really hated the seam between the denim and the cotton where it came together, so I added another piece of lace around or on that seam to hide it, and I think it turned out really nice. I did find when the fabric hung, my waistband stretched open. So before I put the waistband in, it stretched. So I added a waistband and just folded it in the back, made a little pleat that you don't really see. But then I made it too small somehow. I swear I used my measurement, but it's still too small to pull it on over my head. I don't put in zippers in my skirts if I can help it. I pull everything on over my head. Because I don't know, I can just maneuver that way, I guess. I can usually fit things, what fits around my waist, I can get my head and shoulders through. However, in this case, I made it too small, so it's a little tight. So I had to cut the back and add a zipper. I was not redoing it. I didn't want to. Time was running out, and it wasn't that serious, so I just put in a zipper and called it a day. So now we have the corset and the skirt. So then I made the blouse. I searched high and low to find the perfect fabric, and I think I did. It's just a cotton lace. I think I called it a crochet lace fabric. I think that's how I searched for it. It was a little off-white, which was sad, because I was hoping for more of a stark white, but I think it went well with everything. It was a nightmare to work with in the end. I cut everything out, and it just deformed. I really needed to put a stay stitch around it before cutting it out, but I didn't even think about that. So I was able to cobble together the blouse, again using Nikita Cosplay's pattern. I did have to alter the sleeves. I didn't like where they were hanging, so I wound up making it a quarter length sleeve, attached lace to the collar, attached lace to the cuffs, and threaded blue ribbon through the cuffs. There was supposed to be like a true collar, but it was going to be hidden anyway, and I was fighting with that fabric so much I was like, I'm done. So I just put lace to hide the raw edge. It's fine, it looks fine. And anyway, you're not going to see the collar anyway. It was really easy to make the blouse. It just was not. It wasn't fun. And then I made the apron, which I think is my absolute favorite part of this entire thing. It's so clean looking. Like, I can't explain how nice it looks. And I know that sounds kind of braggy, but I often struggle with properly finishing things. I'm completely self-taught, so I am just over here doing my best. You know, I'm just trying. But this thing turned out right. And I know aprons are pretty simple, but I am just so proud of this little apron. It's just some cotton muslin that I had on hand, of course. And I cut a rectangle that, I know there's an actual word for this, but I cut a rectangle where it tapered in just ever so slightly. And then I gathered up the top, doing the same gathering that I did with the blue ruffle on the skirt. And I made a really long waistband that I folded in half. I actually bag lined that. I folded the waistband in half, and I stitched it all the way except for the edge. I flipped it over. I did leave a gap like this long in that stitching so that I could slide the gathered part of the apron into it and top stitch that closed so you can't see any raw edges. And I just stitched some lace appliques onto the front of some blue flowers that I found. And that was it. It was so easy. Oh wait, I forgot. I added lace around the perimeter and then another lace detail because I liked that design on Nikita Cosplays. So I'm so proud of my little apron. It's so cute. Very easy. I got it done in like an hour maybe. It was so fast. There's something really nice about making these just basic casual cosplays. They're quick wins and they feel good to finish something and to see progress happen so fast. The whole thing I think took me 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. But you know, I don't have unlimited time. I have to do this in pockets of time that I have after work. So I think that I flew through this one, and the apron is so cute. And then the absolute final thing that I made, I think it's called a fichu. Fichu is how it's spelled in Nikita's book. She has one, and it's just like a neck scarf. And I don't think she had a pattern for it. It just showed you the shape, so I cut out the shape that I thought would work. I found this beautiful Swiss dot fabric from Joann's that was this muted light blue color with little raised dots on it. And I added some more of that crochet lace around the top, and that was it. Super, super easy. I had no idea how to wear it. So whenever I revealed it on my shorts, I put everything on and I just sort of like draped it over my shoulders and tucked it down the front. I swear I've seen like late 1700s, well, I guess even early 1600s maybe, women with that sort of thing. So I thought that was right. But then after I wore it to Disney, I went and looked in the book, and she actually has it on under her corset. But I liked the way that mine looked, and it added a little bit more character to it. Gave a little bit more of like my aesthetic, I guess, to it. And so this is the finished look. But yeah, so I hope that this was super easy. I feel like I talked really fast and jabbered quite a bit. Something that happens to me quite often. But it was very simple. And I really do recommend Nikita's book if you want some really good corset patterns and some more instructions on how to make something like I made. Highly recommend. It's a little expensive, but it's a very nice book. It's hardbound and beautifully done. I really, really enjoy using it. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this was a fun little adventure for you to follow. Check out my cosplay progress vlogs that I post every week if you want to see what I'm up to. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in my next video. Bye!